Well, hello and welcome to another rainy day episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am The Unlicensed Counselor, and another beautiful Scottsdale day, if you want to call it that. It is pouring rain here, right? And, you know, last couple episodes I've been talking about a great time of year, beautiful weather. We got the waste management officially starts today. We record this on a Thursday, and what do you know? Rain every single day this week. Usually this is like postcard weather out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, but man, we are getting bummed. I actually feel bad. The guys, the Thunderbirds who put on this whole tournament, they raise a ton of money for the charity and obviously throw a great party as well too. A little bummed that they get stuck with weather like this. It doesn't rain 5 days in a row out here ever. And then boom, you get the tournament, and then sure enough, we get the waterworks turned on. But the show must go on, right? This is what we do out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. But hey, got an interesting topic. Oh, let's call it, I don't think the topic is controversial. Maybe it is a controversial topic. I know that my opinion on the matter is one that's going to evoke some strong feelings one way or the other. I had an entire other show prepped until about, 10 o'clock last night. I've been debating online. I spent some time on LinkedIn kind of, kicking around different topics, posting content and things like that. And I've been engaged in kind of a discussion all week around needle exchange programs, right? Maybe you're familiar with them, maybe you're not, where people can go in and get clean needles in order to use their drugs, right? And today I want to dig into kind of my views on what a needle exchange program is and kind of shed some light on, I understand what this is intended to be, but kind of the reality of what's actually happening out there in the world. And again, I've had some, we'll call it heated debates online with some of the folks, and oftentimes with a lot of letters after their name, right? I've lost track. We throw so many letters after names now. I'm not even sure, what some of these people are, but they have strong opinions. I have strong opinions. Difference is I have a microphone, they don't. So let's use it today. Anyways, before we get too far down into that fun topic today, I'm going to start by thanking our sponsor, ShareTech. They actually just updated their website. Go to betterdrugtest.com. In the process of doing some updated branding, marketing, and stuff like that, but the product hasn't changed, and the product is what you need. This is the industry-leading at-home drug and alcohol screen. This is where you get a report securely sent to you that measures the levels of over 100-plus substances, including alcohol, for you or whoever your loved one is that needs to be testing. It is the test that all of the leading outpatient and treatment centers recommend to their clients when they go home, right? So this is actually performed in a lab as well. You get to take the test securely and privately and discreetly from the comfort of your own home, but the results are sent off to a lab and processed, and you get a report back. So go to betterdrugtest.com, pick up one of those tests. Trust me, you're not going to be able to cheat, fudge the results of this test in any way, shape, or form. So next up on the list, obviously, you want to mention, the youth drug prevention effort that I'm involved in. Go to the stopstartshere.org. Edgy, bold, raw, kind of really compelling content around youth drug prevention. It is extremely important work. Follow us on all the social channels, but really go check out some of our content. We've got some neat stuff that we're going to be rolling out here in the next few weeks and few months as well, too. And last but not least, on the Unlicensed Counselor front, I actually just started uploading all of these videos and podcasts directly to YouTube as well. So I think we are officially at 0 subscribers right now, right? So do a podcaster a favor and go subscribe. Not that you need to. I mean, you can listen to it on all the podcast streaming services, but I'd like to build up an audience on YouTube as well, too. Takes a little bit of time, costs you nothing, but obviously helps us out. Just go type in the old Unlicensed Counselor on YouTube and give us a subscribe as well. Really appreciate that. So, okay, that's all we got. We got paid some bills, get that stuff out of the way today. So, the topic I was going to talk on today, it's something that's kind of intrusive thoughts, these things that come in your head. You just can't kind of shake them. They kind of come in, and I've been practicing a lot of these techniques in order to kind of move thoughts out. All the while, I've been online kind of posting content and debating, the behavioral health field around this needle exchange program. And I got to the point where I was responding to some comments and posts and things. I mean, I've been threatened, I've been harassed, whatever, I don't even care, come at me. And I've been in the field. Like, this isn't isn't just, Steve Moak, some dude off the street. This is a second nonprofit that I've helped build. Again, I completed 3.5 years of a master's program, did not complete the practicum, which is the only reason why I'm licensed. So I have the educational, I have the experience from being in drug and alcohol, treatment and recovery for going on a decade now. I have worked in the treatment center industry. I have showed up on interventions and held the hands of people when they're on the edge of who knows what, and their life is completely in shambles. I know what's going on in this industry, and I work with these people in and outside of the rooms of AA, NA, CA, you name it, right? So don't sit here and tell me you don't know what you're talking about, Steve, right? It's bullcrap, right? It's bullcrap. And so I'm getting into these conversations now, specifically around needle exchange programs, right? Now, if you're unfamiliar with the concept of a needle exchange program these are IV drug users, people who, shoot drugs into their veins, right? It could be heroin. More than likely now it's all fentanyl, right? It's just that they can liquefy it. They now shoot it into their veins and you get high, right? It's also what's causing a crap ton of the overdoses. Side note, overdoses went up again. We're now at 112,000. So I think it was like a 2% increase this year, right? So, we'll circle back to that point a little bit later. So if you are using IV drugs, the thought process behind this is that we can set up these sites. You can come in and bring the needles that you have been shooting with. We'll give you clean ones so that you can now have a clean needle. Well, what's the purpose of that? Well, oftentimes people who are shooting up could be sharing needles. They could have blood diseases that they could be transferring to one another, and obviously that is not a good thing. You can transmit AIDS and other things like that. So I get that. I understand that. Now, there's a lot of things that you have to unpack in how these needle exchange programs are packaged and marketed and kind of branded out to the world, be it through politicians or the nonprofits that go out there and actually do this, to the reality of what is actually going on when you walk into one of these needle exchange programs. They're two very different things, right? So let's just start by saying, and what proponents of this call it is harm reduction. I've done another episode on harm reduction. Today I want to zero in specifically on the needle exchange program side of quote unquote harm reduction. And I am not a fan of that term because in all honesty, it's the exact opposite of what is actually happening in the world. But let's be very clear on what my opinion on this matter is. If you came to me and said, Steve, we are seeing a massive increase in diseases from people sharing needles and HIV and many other things that people are sharing needles and getting sick from, let's create a needle exchange program for this. And they said, because we want to prevent that type of illness from being transmitted. I would go, I really don't love the idea because it feels like it encourages drug use, but this is for a medical purpose of not transmitting other disease. Okay, like I don't love that, but I'm okay with things that I don't love. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean these things don't have a place to exist in the world. So, the issue that I have is that these needle exchange programs are branded as some form of drug treatment as well, too, that we are helping people with their addiction by providing them with these clean needle access. That is where I start to get frustrated and annoyed with these folks, and I've gotten very clear online about this. I want to make sure that I share this out with the world. If you came and said, look, we want to prevent HIV transmission by giving these folks clean needles, right? They're going to use anyways, understood. I'd be okay with that. When you pull in the treatment side of this thing and say, hey, we're going to give you clean needles, and that's going to help you hopefully overcome your addiction, I'm going to go, hold on, wait a second. You had me on reducing transmission of diseases. I understand that part. But this is not a tool to aid in helping someone with their addiction, who's in active addiction. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to offer them clean needles. They can come in. We'll give them some pamphlets. We'll kind of guide them down the recovery path, and that's the intent. And that, what you heard me just say, is how this is branded out in the world. It is telling folks that, hey, you know what? We're going to kind of move these people down the path as they're going down this. And I'm going, okay. Fast forward to multiple years into this being the thing, needle exchange programs actually happening. That's not the reality of what it is. And in fact, there's multiple studies now, and you can find studies on both sides of the equation here, and that's what people have been throwing at me online. You can find CDC studies that show the efficacy of these programs and how they're helping people with addiction and blah, 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 blah. Look, if we've learned anything over the last couple of years, I questioned some CDC studies. Asked me 10 years ago would I have ever questioned a CDC study. I would have said no, but I think that we can all at least give it a little bit of pause now that the organizations who are funding these things, the government organizations that are now funding this and then running the research on it and then telling you how great it is, we might just want to pause and at least kind of review that with a little more critical eye as well too. So, and by the way, is it the government's job to be giving out drug paraphernalia? Does that seem like the role of our elected officials to be giving out Okay, I digress, but I'll come back to that point here momentarily. So, if you actually go into, and there's some great Instagram and TikTok accounts that you can actually follow folks who go into these camps kind of with an undercover, eye, microphone, camera, and go see what's going on these actual needle exchange programs. Here's a quote from one of the gentlemen who've done this, who was actually using and kind of filming this and then being asked at the same time what his experience was like. He said, "These guys keep costs down for me," right? So he doesn't have to buy needles anymore, so he can put more of his money towards drugs. The other interesting part about this entire thing as well, too, is now the government, through these needle exchange programs, they're actually supplying the individual with the more expensive part of getting high. Fentanyl has flooded across from wherever, call it border, call it whatever. I don't care about that today, but it is flooding our streets to the point that the fentanyl is now cheaper than the actual damn syringe that the folks are getting. So there is a term that used to be called for this type of thing. It's called enabling, right? It's very straightforward. And I'm getting sick and tired of logic not being used when it comes to these things, right? And the behavioral health field is now becoming filled with just, I'm holding back from saying the words that I want to say when I want to call these people, but I'll just call them weak right now, to be kind in terms of language on the podcast. It is filled with weak people who aren't doing the right thing and are hiding behind these letters and trying to virtue signal that they care so much. Your caring is enabling people and harming people. It is not reducing harm, which you say is happening. Well, Steve, in harm reduction, isn't there, some other treatments and things that go along with this, like medically assisted treatment? Yes, and I split medically assisted treatment out completely entirely from the harm reduction bucket. What MAT is, M-A-T, medically assisted treatment, is really medication that is given to opioid users to kind of help manage their condition, right? Call it methadone, call it norepinephrine. There's lots of other things for this. I completely pull that out of the harm reduction bucket. Harm reduction is use slowly, use with a friend, use the needle exchange program. We want to let you continue to use in hopes that eventually you maybe get sober. That is what I have a real issue with. If you want to use, the medications prescribed by physicians to treat your condition, just like we would with any other medical condition, that is not the same as harm reduction. So don't at me with any of that nonsense. I have no issue with the medically assisted treatment world helping opiate addicted folks, right? Very simple and straightforward. But let's stop confusing and intermingling these terms. But what I am so sick and tired of is all these people, with, again, PhDs, MDs, counselors, LPCs, LACs, who are sitting here and saying that allowing people to continue to use and giving them these needles has no harm to it. They're saying, this is harm reduction. And I'm going, that's the opposite, because there's a crap ton of harm that comes from people continuing to use drugs intravenously, including overdose and death, right? Well, Steve, there's Narcan and, naloxone, the reversal agents for this. That's great. And you can go find studies that have actually shown that since we have now put Narcan and all these other reversal agents out on the market much more freely, that overdoses are increasing. And by the way, the statistics support that, like I quoted at the top of the show, right? Because if people know that they can be saved or brought back to life because right over here is something that can be injected in me that can start my heart again, and it's like, well, what the hell? Let's go for it, right? What do I care? I'm just going to continue to use. So, this point that the logic has left the room, right? You can't tell me with a straight face that allowing people to continue to use it has no harm to it. It's asinine, it's ridiculous, and somebody has to be a voice and push against this. And by the way, these are the leaders in the behavioral health industry across this entire country, from major organizations and government entities that are giving this their stamp of approval and saying, this is how we want to treat these conditions. There was an article that I posted on LinkedIn today that's saying treatment centers are now looking at models that aren't abstinent only. Who in the hell is going to send their son, daughter, husband, wife, aunt, uncle, cousin to a treatment center that's going to be like, yeah, we're just going to try and coach them into using less heroin today, smoking a little less crack, maybe just switching from vodka to beer? What is going on in this world? We've become weak. We're cowering to these voices that are oppressive, that threaten me, come at me. I get it. Like, I see it, and I don't particularly care, but I know many other people that do, and they probably feel threatened by their job or their position. Just like it's this very same thing as kind of what happened with COVID. You get these things forced into you, and you kind of compromise your values based on the pressure that you're feeling around you. It's bogus. And we need people, and I'm not trying to make myself out to be a hero, but there needs to be voices like myself and others that are yelling, going, this is not okay. This is not okay. The problem's getting worse. It's not getting better. And by the way, this harm reduction model, it's not like this is brand new. This has been going on for 20 plus years. So as I always say, is it working? And the answer is absolutely friggin' not. It's not working. So don't tell me you've had enough time to kind of trial this harm reduction thing and show the statistics and come out and clearly say, this is working 100%. This is the way we need to do it. If it was, I'd sit back and go, okay. But when you sit here and tell me all these kind of loose statistics and studies that are, questionable sources and things like that, I'm going to go, no. And also, you can't tell me what I see with my own two eyes, right? I see it sitting across the table from somebody, having a coffee with them, who's hanging on for dear life, trying to get sober, or who's checked into a treatment center and has 17 days sober, right? And exactly what that, hey, you know what? If I gave you the option to use a little bit right now, would you like to do that? Would that help that person? Come on. Just a bunch of idiots out here in the world, and I'm sick and tired of just pretending like everything's hunky-dory out here in this, right? So there's some more that, again, going on this needle exchange program thing. Let's just address it. It's not addressing addiction, right? It's preventing disease from sharing needles. Okay, fine. But you're not addressing the issue. They're billing it and branding it as, yes, we're going to move people along the spectrum and hopefully get them into treatment. Go watch some of these undercover videos. They're really interesting in some of these accounts on Instagram and TikTok, and you'll see what's really going on. Hell, they're giving out pipes and things like that now, too. I mean, I could do a whole other episode. I mean, if you need drug paraphernalia, just show up in San Francisco in one of these needle exchange programs. You're going to get everything you need to continue to get high. Yeah. That sounds like good drug treatment to me, right? Not only are they not treating it, this is encouraging drug use, right? Now we have reversal agents. Now we're giving you the more expensive parts of the getting high. This is completely enabling, right? The whole thing is we'd like to not enable people. We're physically giving them the tools to continue to get high. Don't tell me that that's not going to be doing any harm. So I'm sick and tired of this, and it needs to be called out for what it is. And if this is going on in your backyard, you may want to look into it a little bit further. And by the way, does this conflict with laws at all as well too? Right? I mean, is this legal? Ethically speaking, I have major issues with it as well too. But I mean, is this even legal for our federal government and agencies to be handing out drug paraphernalia? I mean, haven't people historically been arrested for these types of things? And now we're out here dishing it out. Hey, you need a free one? Need a free one? Oh, hey, you need this? Right? Like, what's going on? And we just sit by and go, oh, it's under the guise of treatment? It's BS. Come on, folks. And then, this is one that gets thrown at me a lot when I'm debating folks online. if you look at the studies, Steve, I have looked at the studies, right? And you know what I see? Insufficient evidence of effectiveness, right? Insufficient evidence of effectiveness. Yes. Are there some studies out there? Yes. Are there some studies on the other side of this showing that it's not effective? You bet there is as well, too. So where do you want to lie? You know where I lie? In what I see. In logic, right? In reasoning. And you're not going to convince me that giving people the tools to get high is a good way to treat addiction, right? It's pretty simple. It's just shocking. Straight from the unlicensed counselor's mouth, right? So yes, if you want to bill it under reducing bloodborne transmission of diseases, go for it. Don't come at me with that, you're treating addiction. This doesn't justify the downside, including overdose as well, too, from this as well. And the other part is, under these needle exchange programs, they're telling you that there's these comprehensive services, like there's going to be counseling associated with it and treatment plans and things like that. Again, what you're being sold and what's actually happening are two different things, right? So I would encourage you to find out what's really going on or take a visit down to one of these places and get an idea for yourself, because I have, right? This exists here in Phoenix, Arizona as well, too. I've seen this stuff firsthand. Again, medically speaking, I don't want anyone to get AIDS or any other type of thing from sharing needles, but don't tell me this is around preventing, drug and alcohol addiction. It's plain and simple. It's enabling, right? Don't let anybody tell you what it is, right? This stuff, again, I didn't mean to come in so hot this episode, but I've been debating this with intelligent people, with some of the leaders in the industry. On my LinkedIn, I'm connected to behavioral health folks from all over the country and some over the world as well, too. I mean, these are leaders in medical systems, in healthcare systems and payers and some of the treatment center programs. And not all of them are towing this line, but many of them are. And I'm out here going, look, I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with you giving paraphernalia out for people to continue to use drugs. I'm not for the government blessing this and funding this and telling you that it's okay. It's not. There needs to be something done about this. If you want to do it under the medical side of this thing, there's a case to be made for it there. I understand both sides of it, but don't sit here and tell me that you're helping people by allowing them to continue to use. Whew. Okay. Period of end of story. I think I got my point across, Robin. Do people understand that? Am I a little fired up about this? Okay, good. Well, look, the reason I wanted to bring it up today is it's probably not a topic that most of the folks here are actively struggling with or needing to go out and swap their needles and things like that. But it is potentially happening in your backyard, in your city, or maybe coming to your city. And I just think it's worth being in the know of what's being kind of discussed around these things and what's actually happening at a lot of these things. And I encourage you to go and find some of these accounts and give them a follow and maybe do your own research and read the studies on both sides and see where you kind of fall on the matter. Pretty straightforward in my opinion, but evidently not everyone sees things the same way as the unlicensed counselor. So, really, I don't think we need to go any deeper into this topic today. That's all. I just wanted to put this out there for the world to see and make sure that you're aware of kind of what's going on for harm reduction or these needle exchange programs across the country. Do a little bit of your own research. Get back to me. Let's continue this discussion online as well, too. Go ahead and find me at The Unlicensed Counselor on Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn, all that kind of good stuff. So if you have any thoughts, let's keep the conversation going offline. But that's all I got for you today. So my name is Steve Moak. I am The Unlicensed Counselor. Until next time, thank you very much.